What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. Today, we continue our series on a deep dive of some of the best college quarterbacks entering the NFL draft. Today, we take a look at North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance. We're going to take a deep dive into some of his pros, his cons, and give you our pro comparison. All that and much more coming your way right now! Nick, we have talked a lot about some of these quarterbacks that are entering the draft, and I think most of them have proven this year why they should be selected. One guy who didn't get the chance, however, is Trey Lance. And Trey Lance opted out of his season because of COVID-19, which nobody can blame him for, right? He wanted to be safe and secure, knowing that he was going to be entering the NFL draft. And this is where we are. So why don't you, for those of our audience members that are watching and don't know who Trey Lance is, why don't you tell them who he is and give us a brief description of what he's all about?
Yeah, Trey Lance was one of the biggest quarterbacks in college coming into this past season, and it really hurt him when he decided to opt out. We've heard of other players in the past opting out of their final season to prepare for the combine, prepare for the draft, and that's hurt their stock a little bit. And this happened especially since we saw Zach Wilson burst onto the scene this year, and he completely stole any of the spotlight that was left that Trey Lance had. Trey Lance, though, is again a 6'3 quarterback, just like a lot of these other quarterbacks, at 220 pounds. He's got a really great build, and he showed off in his first 3 seasons at North Dakota State. This guy was making spectacular plays, not only with his arm, but with his feet. And I think that's where he really shines above the rest, is his footwork and his ability to run with the ball. It's far beyond most quarterbacks. He reminds a lot of us of Cam Newton and what he looked like in college. So I think that there's a lot to work with Trey Lance. He's not necessarily a day one starter in the NFL, but he has all of the tools to be an elite quarterback at the next level. And if he's selected to the right team, he could be a great fit for that system. But that's really where it begins, because he needs to be selected to the right team. And as the number 4 quarterback in this draft, in the rankings, he's going to be in the middle to end of the first round. And some of those teams have the right fits, but some don't.
Yeah, I would, Trey Lance, just watching him on film has really opened my eyes to, and it's tough because we're looking at where he was a year ago. We haven't seen what he was able to learn and how he was able to progress this year. There's no film on it. He's not doing a pro day. There's no combine. So we really have to go off of 2019. And what I saw in 2019, while I see raw talent, I do not see an NFL ready quarterback. I just don't. I see a guy that relies a lot on his athletic ability to make plays. He doesn't do read progression really well. He doesn't sit in the pocket. The good things are he looks downfield and he hits wide receivers when they're open. That's the good part. The bad part is he's not looking for multiple receivers when the guy isn't open. He's making too many plays with his body, and he's going to end up getting hurt. And like we saw with Cam Newton, he came into the league, he was a prolific athlete at the quarterback position, and then he all of a sudden, after his MVP season, he gets hurt, and then he gets hurt again, and then we see what we saw in 2020, where he is nowhere near the same athlete that he once was, and may not get to that level again. I think Trey Lance is going to have some of those same issues. We're talking about a guy that puts his body on the line every single time. He looks like he knows how to play the quarterback position, but he needs to go to a system where he's going to be taught and mentored by somebody who's been in those situations before, that can teach him how to throw the ball properly, somebody who can teach him how to go through read progressions, and overall how to take care of his body.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there with he is a lot like Cam Newton, and he likes to take on hits because he is a thicker build. And for a guy who's only 6'3", he looks very, very tall. He looks like he's Cam Newton 6'5", 6'6", but he it loves to take on contact more, even more so than Justin Fields, as we mentioned in yesterday's video. And he is going to find himself in some bad spots if he continues that at the NFL. And like you said, he's going to need to learn from a coach who's been down that road, like Ron Rivera, who had Cam Newton all those years. Kyle Shanahan's been with mobile quarterbacks before. Bill Belichick just saw it with Cam Newton last season. So these coaches are familiar with this play style, and they're going to know how to work with him. I don't know if you guys have heard parents say that the first baby is always the test baby, but they know how to treat them better on the second one around. Well, this is the second baby for a lot of these coaches, so they're going to be able to work with him and know how to handle him much better than they did the first time going through it. So I think that he's going to work in the NFL level. What I want to stress on is we know he's a great quarterback. We know he had a lot of success and he's great running the ball. His accuracy and his ability to go look through reads is where he is lacking his abilities. He needs to be taught how to go through reads, how to not be stagnant in the pocket, be a mobile quarterback, and move the protection with his body. He needs to, every time you watch him in film, he is staying in the pocket. His feet are set on the ground. He's not moving at all, and he's staring in places. He needs to be able to move with his body out of the pocket to extend plays like other quarterbacks have shown. He needs to be able to look at one receiver, take his eyes off of them, and be able to come back to them, not just stare at them the entire time. There's some small things that are going to need to be worked out with him, but overall, I think that Trey Lance has all of the abilities and all of the traits that you want in your quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest question mark, that pops up is he going to be ready for the NFL because he went to Division 2 North Dakota State? I mean, we're talking about the same school that produced Carson Wentz, and we're talking about injuries with this guy before he's even drafted, and look at where Carson Wentz is now. I mean, he's coming off yet another injury. So, I mean, there's definitely skepticism here coming from North Dakota State quarterbacks, and I think Trey Lance has to do his very best to not fall into the same pattern that Carson Wentz fell into. And, so my understanding of Trey Lance is that he is going to have to sit for at least a year to 2 or 3 years. I really think that he's not going to be able to come right into the league and dominate, as Cam Newton, as Carson Wentz did. He's going to have to sit and kind of learn the ropes a bit and learn more about the quarterback position. But it's all about scheme fit. You listed a few teams, Nick. I also talk about the Chicago Bears because Matt Nagy is a really good offensive coach. I believe that he has the skill set to be able to coach him up as well.
Yeah, so for NFL comparisons, I really think that he reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott, but he's definitely not there. If we're going with somebody he's coming right into the NFL as, I'm going to go with Teddy Bridgewater. I think that he's a thicker build than Teddy Bridgewater, but his accuracy as a passer is right there. I think that his mindset is the same as Teddy Bridgewater, and his mobility is either at Teddy's or better than Teddy Bridgewater's. So he's gonna work well in the NFL as Teddy Bridgewater has, and I don't think he's going to have the same injury history that Teddy Bridgewater had. So he'll be fine wherever he goes. But I really think he compares well to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I just think he's like a more mobile version of Derek Carr. I really don't see a lot of progress being made. I see that he's going to struggle with staring at single receivers. He's going to basically a lot of these things he has to correct because his ceiling could end up being what we saw from Cam Newton back in 2014, 2015. Which is great because that's the type of build that he has, and you're not going to change the stripes on a zebra, meaning you're not going to change his play style. You're going to have to placate toward it, but you have to be able to teach him how to make reads, how to read the defense, and how to move the defense with his eyes. That's all going to come with time. So right now, I have him at a level that would include Derek Carr, where I think his ceiling is, pre MVP Cam Newton. I think that's really where we are at this moment.
And finally, the teams that we should expect to go after a guy like Trey Lance. I'm going to start with the Carolina Panthers. I think if you look at who they have right now, they have PJ Walker and Teddy Bridgewater. Trey Lance fits that mold that Matt Rule likes in a quarterback, and I think that Trey Lance learning under Teddy Bridgewater for a year or so would be perfect for him. He'd get a great sense of what to do and what not to do, and he'd be good to go after this season in Matt Rule's system. Other teams that we could look at are the 49ers, the Patriots, and Washington. Really don't think he's going to make it out of the teens in the draft. I think Washington would take him before passing up on him. So I think those teams, and as I mentioned, those coaches who have had experience in the past with mobile quarterbacks will be able to work with him very well.
And one more just to add, the Indianapolis Colts. Frank Reich worked with Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Did a really, really good job with him, and obviously understands the quarterbacks coming out of North Dakota State. Well, let's talk about another one, Trey Lance coming to the Indianapolis Colts and taking over the reins there. He walks into a system with a top offensive line. He's going to walk into an area where he's got plenty of weapons and a top defense. The only thing is, again, he needs to sit, so they're going to have to sign a free agent quarterback that is well versed in the NFL, that has been around a long time. Maybe somebody like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, somebody who can really help mentor this guy. So overall, I believe that he can go to the right scheme. I don't think he's going to make it out of the first round. Even if he does make it toward the end of the first round, there will be a team that jumps back in just to get him on that fifth year, because that's so valuable for these quarterbacks nowadays. So I would definitely take a look at some of these teams that we've mentioned. All right, that's going to do it. And thank you all for watching. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.